Hello, welcome to another program, SCLC Today. We are so happy to have two outstanding leaders, not only from Atlanta in terms of what we do. We have people from D.C. throughout the world, matter of fact. But we're fortunate to have our bureau chief. You hear me talking about it, none other than Attorney Kimble. And we have a special guest along with Attorney Kimble, none other than Mr. Brad Anderson. And Brad, can you tell the people what's the name of your company?
Global Risk Managers.
Wow, Global Risk Managers. And I want to thank our bureau chief. I'm gonna just say Bureau Chief Kimble. I like that. Oh,
I feel like I got promoted.
Like a fellow told me when I called him a bishop, and he was a reverend, but I thought he was a bishop. He said, "Thank you for the promotion." But we have a lot of good information to share with you. And Kevin, I'm gonna really start with you in terms of the policy agenda.
Okay.
You work on the Hill, Capitol Hill, our federal capital, in terms of what we do from day to day and our survival mechanism. But I want to just ask you an open-ended question, basically talking about our policy agenda has been hijacked.
Yes.
Am I correct?
That's how I
Taken
feel about
away
it.
from us.
And thank you for always being willing to engage, because not a lot of people do. Like, that people don't pay attention to this. And the one thing that you and I've talked about, and I've talked with Brad and others, is that the priorities for African Americans and other minorities are not being discussed in the media, right? So I'll give you a prime example. I'm watching TV last week. There's a commercial comes on the MSNBC with 20 mayors of majority minority cities, right? Mayor of Birmingham's on there, mayor of Cleveland's on there, a couple other mayors. And they're talking about banning menthol cigarettes, saying it's the most important thing to do for black health. And I said, that can't be right. I'm like, who's running this? That can't be right. And I said, I called you about that. I was like, is this a project? I called Brad. I called a bunch of people and said, Brad goes, I've got like 45 things that are ahead of menthol cigarettes on the priority list.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, well, who's driving this? And then, it's got me thinking. And then, of course, you did this letter, but we talked about this. AIPAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee, the American Jewish community that supports Israel, said they're going to spend $100 million in black elections.
How much, Kevin?
$100 million on 8 races. And I'm like, how are they hijacking our elected officials? How is that? How's it they're supposed to get 20 black mayors and 21 attorney generals to care about menthol cigarettes versus, how do we have, what is it, 2.2% of VC money? We can't get mortgages. I mean, all the things that we can't, this is how they've hijacked. That's what I mean by hijacking our priorities. And then you got that guy Bloom spending millions. Edward Bloom spending tens of millions of dollars on lawsuits to make sure we don't ever get above 0.2% of venture capital money. Right? Maybe even try to make it less than that. I don't know how far he wants us to go down, but so what I complain to you about is like, well, where are the minority millionaires, billionaires? Why aren't they engaging? Why is every commercial I see is about someone outside of our community determining what issues should be part of our issues, right? I don't see anyone doing a policy summit. We're having this policy summit coming up in March, Minority Policy Priorities Summit, because in DC, because no one else is talking about it. I mean, as far as I know, the only thing we care about is menthol cigarettes.
Are you saying in terms of the hijacking of our policies, basic fundamental rights?
Basic fundamental rights and our ability to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? If you can't get the government to address your grievances, how can you do any of those things, right? And so that is my, for several years we've been doing this thing about advocacy. But I realized that wasn't enough for us, right? Because we're not engaging at a level. You mentioned about the hip hop community being unhappy. Right. I said, well, I haven't seen them doing any commercials on MSNBC asking for what they want to ask, right? So
they need to work with us.
They need to work with us, and they're not. I mean, and that is my. And I asked Brad to come to talk about something that's positive, something that a real program that we could be working on that should be at the top of the list for minority policy stuff, not, whether or not we can smoke, we can smoke Winston's or Cools, right? I mean, that's just absurd.
Yeah, it is absurd. And and it's a belittlement to who we are.
There you.
It's sad.
It is sad.
But Brad, I'm so happy to have you here. You came all the way from D.C.
I'm actually here in Atlanta, Dr. Steele.
I thought I met you in D.C.
You met me in D.C. at a policy conference that Kevin gave.
That's right. That's
last
where
year.
we first met.
And we talked about how we need to help minority contractors be involved in our infrastructure work.
Tell me about the Justice 40, or wherever you want to start.
No, I want to start with Justice 40 because that gets back to helping minority contractors participate in our infrastructure construction. So President Biden, when he first came into office, he executed an executive order number 14008, that created the Justice 40 initiative. And basically the focus is on providing 40% of the federal funds that are spent on environmental justice with minorities, disenfranchised communities, underserved communities, our people, to help them have an opportunity to participate in this infrastructure work. The problem is, Dr. Steele, is that the president is using the same agencies that have created these problems for us, the Department of Interior, the Department of Housing, the Department of Transportation, all these federal departments that have created the environmental problems that we have, the EPA, all the pollution that we're dealing with. Those same agencies are responsible for implementing Justice 40. What I think should be happening, Dr. Steele, is they need to be talking to the SCLC. Okay. They need to be talking to the National Congress of American Indians. They need to be talking to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce about ways that we can work with the White House to give them policies and principles and procedures that they can implement to enable the people that they're trying to help to be able to be participating in this Justice 40 program.
Well, Brad, you really got my attention. Who are they talking to?
They're talking to the Department of the Environment. They're talking to the Department of Defense.
The people who are in the federal system itself.
That are causing the pollution that they're trying to resolve. The money is going to the same agencies that are causing the pollution. And they're asking those agencies.
I would say this. And this
systemic.
Yes.
This is why I want to throw this in there, Brad, then you get back to it. My vision is one day, instead of seeing commercials about menthol cigarettes for black mayors, I'd see 20 black mayors saying, why don't we implement Justice 40 in my community? That's the TV commercials I want to see. I'm sorry.
That's what we need.
And it is the implementation that the White House is struggling with. Mm-hmm. They're going back to the departments that are creating the problem. They're going back to the departments that have issues with minority participation because they don't represent the minorities and the communities that are disenfranchised. And those disenfranchised communities aren't represented in the implementation. That's why I said they need to be working with us. To implement programs like the owner-controlled insurance program that I've been working with Kevin on, which is a program that can reduce the cost of construction on major infrastructure projects. But it levels the playing field for small and minority contractors. So it would enable minority contractors to be building these Justice 40 projects that the White House wants to see 40% of the cost of the budget go to disenfranchised communities.
40%.
40%. Well, but they have no plan. They have no, as you said, Dr. Steele, they have no implementation of the program. It's an executive order that was created, but there's no legs on it.
Why don't we hear more from Washington, D.C. in terms of the people that represent us?
I don't think they want to talk about this. I think, they do the press conference and they do the executive order, and the president talks about this initiative to have 40% go into this community, but they don't talk about how it's actually going to work.
No impact.
No impact.
And minority business people, leaders, don't spend any money on advocacy or lobbying. Okay? So, we can soft code all you want to, but if you're on the table asking, you have a few, if Edward Bloom can spend $5 million to stop the Fearless Fund from giving away $250,000 worth of contract of grants, what does that say for that we can't spend $250,000?
Not millions.
$250,000. He spent millions to stop $250,000. So that is our as a community, that's our failing. Our leaders are not taking them. So of course the White House can ignore us, right? Because we're not we haven't ran a TV commercial. We haven't ran it. So that is what our whole Minority Policy Project Summit is about. That how can AIPAC spend $100 million on 8 congressional districts, and how do we expect then to impact the Justice 40?
And you're talking about people who are really contributing to them, but they behind the scene. And they have this type of money.
Yeah.
And now we have people, I just walked in my building 2 hours ago. I saw someone going through a garbage can. Just turned my stomach, Mr. Anderson, Attorney Kimble. It just turned my stomach right here on the side and in front. I went to get a haircut. I was telling my barber about it. He said, man, it's a shame. This is America.
It is.
And you're talking about $100 million being spent to attack people of color and African Americans from being in office.
8 of them. You know, that's like almost how many? That's $10-12 million per election, per cycle, per candidate. 12 million. That's ridiculous.
And you have people here who don't know where the next meal is coming. I have a young lady with 3 children sleeping in a car with a U-Haul for their clothes right in the back of this building.
Yeah.
And there's another family that comes because they've been evicted.
Yeah.
What's the black wealth? Our homes.
Yeah, that's everybody's wealth.
That's everybody's wealth.
Yeah.
Real estate.
Yep.
So I have a problem, and with
Okay,
people,
you made me.
Go ahead.
You brought
Yes,
this. I have to say this.
please.
Another thing, because the 21 attorney generals went after the menthol and the mayors. One thing they don't do is fight for real estate appraisal fairness. I mean, so not only do we not have that many homes, the homes we have are undervalued. So
Right.
if I were called, if I was in Birmingham, if I was in Cleveland, I'd ask my mayor, why don't you work on that?
And part of the problem, Kevin, is part of the problem that our homes are undervalued is because the federal government puts these projects in our communities. They put the wastewater treatment facilities.
Yes.
They put the
Garbage.
dumps.
Right.
They put the highways through our communities.
Rail-
right
Okay,
here,
yeah.
right a block from our office.
Yeah, so all of this environmental injustice that has been done to our people, it diminishes the value of our properties.
And it came from the agencies that's supposed to be representing and protecting us.
Exactly.
And we don't call them to task.
Wow.
Our people don't call that. Where what we need 100
Ladies
Harry
and gentlemen,
Belafontes.
ladies and gentlemen, do you hear what these 2 individuals, these great leaders who support SCLC and how we're crying in the wilderness? We got to come together.
We do.
We got to come together. Let's bring on the hip hops. What you say?
Well, I mean, you know, again, they're the biggest generators of wealth at this time, place. We need them. We need our Harry Belafonte. Dr. King had Harry Belafonte
right.
and a few other
Sammy Davis Jr., Mahalia Jackson. Yeah.
We don't have
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Peter, Paul, and Mary. Martin Sheen was part of that whole.
That's
That was
right.
Crazy.
That's right.
We don't
got that. We don't have that now.
We don't have that now.
Because we have been divided in terms of the system. And you're talking about the interstates that's coming through our communities. You got to develop your community.
You do. We do. And like you said, we have to work together. We have to work with like-minded people that are infected by the same problems.
When you and Kevin was talking about, and I like that what you were talking about, Brad, about Justice 40. When you was talking about that, I was going to Cleveland, Ohio, and there's some good folks that have worked with me. Reverend Cavanagh, Dr. Cavanagh, just a great example of fighting for your people. 95 years of age.
95 years old.
And you know it, Kevin, you see it. 95 years of age. And he called me the other day, just a motivating factor. And we need a Reverend Cavanagh all over this country. But this is my point. You got a black mayor, a majority black city council, and you got state representatives. And you're talking about Sherman Williams. That's what came to my mind when you're talking about Justice 40.
Yeah.
The money coming from the federal government, the state government, local government. And we don't have no support from the mayor and the city council that's majority black
To get contracts.
to get contracts.
Sherwin Williams has no black contractors in that company.
9 partners at the top. They making decisions with private, small amount of money, but the majority of the money coming from the federal government, state government, and local. Taxpayer dollars. 9 white Caucasian men at the top. Nobody black. And we can't get support from our elected officials. Do you experience that in other cities?
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, again, those 20 cities I mentioned about it from that TV ad. Birmingham.
Yeah.
You're from Birmingham.
My hometown base, Tuscaloosa, 50 miles away. Whoa, and it's a civil rights city.
And it's a right city.
Civil rights city.
But from what I understand, minorities have 0.3% of the government contracts from the city of
Wow.
Birmingham. That's what I've been told.
And that's pretty consistent across the board. So
Wow.
for infrastructure, minority contractors participate in less than 2% of construction across the
And
board.
that's where the economics
where
happen
the
to be.
money-
That's where the money is.
That's where
they
the money
make
is.
the political decision who they support it.
Yes.
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 Politics is all about who gonna get the money.
That's right.
It is.
That's right.
And it comes from corporate and business people.
Yeah.
And that's where that 100 million coming from you talking about
That's right.
attack.
That's right.
And we're not at the table. We have to be at the table helping to drive the policy, to implement the program so that our people are actually participating in the commerce that flows from these programs.
Think about it. 5 states have banned DE&I. We're talking about being inclusive.
Inclusiveness.
How can we, we're not fighting anywhere on this. Our people are not, the people who have the resources it would take. Again, Bloom's got $1 billion to spend. He's willing, it's entertainment for him to try to hurt us, right?
Wow.
So he just spends his money, it's like entertainment. It's fun for him. Or the APAC guys. How are we going to, us here at this table, we know what needs to be done, but where are the funders? Where are our people who are going to help us make this work?
Well, you got the money is in our black athletes, our entertainers, including the hip hop community. People over 65 years of age, we just 17% of the population.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have to train and teach them to come and work with us.
Yeah.
And I hate the labels we put, generation this, generation that. We all are in trouble in the same generation of catching hell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's generation H.
That's right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, do you see what I'm saying? Before we close, any closing comments?
No, thank you for letting us take the time to do this. You know how you always have to hear me say this. Now I said it to the audience.
You are the best, and I said this to you before, Kevin. You are the best in what you do, in research, and you have a family of dedicated people. Your children, your wife, and you never turn down an opportunity to help one another. And I quoted Muhammad Ali on my last program. Service to others. It's the rent you pay. That's what we're doing. The rent you pay for your room while you're here on earth.
Yeah.
We paying our rent by informing our people. Brad, you got to have the last word. Man, you got me on fire.
I appreciate it. So one of the things that you talked about, Dr. Steele, was these folks that are living in their cars.
Yeah.
Part of the Justice 40 program initiative is to fund training, education, and workforce development. And I know that's one of your focuses here at the SCLC. And we have to invest in our people, the training, education, workforce development, to get them in these jobs so that they don't end up in the prison system.
Right.
That's really the alternative for 3 square meals is you either work, you have a job, or unfortunately our people end up behind bars.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard it from not only my associates and friends and committed leaders in helping our people. When I say our people, all God's children. But the problem happened to be with people of color and African American descent. Let's just face it. America has never been healed from the transatlantic African slave trade. And we must bring this attention to all of our people because my philosophy is politics has never freed the oppressed. The oppressed must free politics. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
And we're going to have a whole lot more to say about the problems of today in dealing with politics, economics, not getting loans at the bank. Got to go through an underwriter. Can't build relationships with folks with money. We're so removed, as you said, Mr. Anderson, as you said, we're not at the table. But you know what my philosophy is? If we're not at the table, bring a folding chair. Bring a folding chair and squeeze in at the table and make them accept us. But if we don't advocate it, as Kevin has always said, other people and ethnicity of people in their groups, they advocate. And it takes money, doesn't it?
Again, those two numbers, they speak for themselves. Guys spending millions of dollars to stop you from giving away $250,000. Guys spending $100 million to decide 8 congressional districts that they want to make sure they have the right position on
The
Israel.
Fearless Fund, those 3 African American young ladies, attacking them because they just want to be the mentorship for those who are left out, who happen to be African Americans, female.
Yep.
Thank you again for coming. I'm fired up, and I know we got to cut it off. But ladies and gentlemen, keep tuned in to SCLC today, because we're going to tell it like it is.
Being of service to others can begin with a membership to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The movement of Dr. King continues today, and you can be a part of that movement with your membership to an organization whose mission is as important today as it has ever been. Become a member of SCLC today by visiting our website at nationalsclc.org. And please consider becoming a lifetime member of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. You are the most important part of the movement. nationalsclc.org.